Welcome to That's So Savvy, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories and journeys of remarkable business leaders. Join our host, Nancy Eichholz, a seasoned professional and experienced entrepreneur, on her mission to discover the recipe for business success.
Welcome back to Season 2, That's So Savvy podcast. I'm really excited to go into Season 2. I am Nancy Eichholz, your host, and today I have a very good friend of mine, Eisha Armostrong. We go pretty far back. I would say at least 8 years-ish, maybe more.
Maybe more.
Yeah. Eisha joined the board of Aviator Accelerators when I was the CEO there, and we were fast friends. We just got along great from day one. She brought so much to my board and to me as a friend, and during the time that we were working together, she helped me get the curriculum for Aviatra put into digital and an online platform, which took us from serving women just in the community to across the world. I was literally hearing from people all over the world with that curriculum. And then she took her concept and productized it, which I had never heard that word before. So Eisha, let's go back and talk just about Eisha and who you are. And I know that you had a whole life before I even met you. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I spent the bulk of my career working in B2B information services, was working at the company that really pioneered how do you take consulting services and productize them. So how do you take something that's usually delivered one-to-one and deliver it one-to-many? And I spent my time there in product development, product management, product leadership roles. Also led a product management team at a large media company. And then decided to team up with a former coworker and start a firm about the time that I joined the Aviatra board.
I think you had just done that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you were just leaving.
Maybe.
Yeah, it was right around that time though.
Yeah. It was a twinkle in my eye, if not yet come to fruition. Yeah, so we started the firm Vecteris, and we'll be celebrating our 7th anniversary coming up. And we really focus on helping B2B services companies. So that could be consulting companies, marketing, training, like Aviatra did a lot of training. And we help them think about how do you take technology and use technology to scale what you're providing, the services that you're providing.
And I remember that being kind of a new concept to me, so I was fascinated by it. It's not so new now, but back then it really was. And as you are listening to Eisha, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her bio, because she is the executive chairman and co-founder of Vecteris. She doesn't just work there. It isn't just an idea. It isn't just a concept. It is a big deal. And like she said, she works with B2B service companies to productize their offerings. But she has more than 25 years of product management and product leadership experience, and a lot of community involvement and leadership that way too. So tell us a little bit more about how you made that transition out of the big corporate world, because you had a big corporate job, into what you did with Vecteris, and how maybe was it scary? What gave you that inner strength or power to go do that?
Yeah, no, great question. I had a nice, cushy corporate job, good, steady paycheck.
It's always nice.
Yeah, lots of, responsibility, big team. But I had always had this dream of being an entrepreneur, and was getting to, it was like my early 40s, and starting to think about when is a good time to take more risk and become an entrepreneur. Honestly, it was a pretty good time because my kids were much more independent than they had been when they were younger. Mm-hmm. We'd built up like a good kind of cash savings, and my network was pretty strong, and I had a good professional reputation. Mm-hmm. So I really got the strength because I felt like the timing was good. But then I also had a co-founder, Nicole, and there's pros and cons of having a co-founder.
Sure.
And we could talk all day about those.
Yeah.
But one of the big pros is that you have someone to kind of help you, give you courage when perhaps you're doubting yourself and vice versa.
Right. That teeter-totter.
Exactly. And she was very much in kind of the same situation that I was in terms of having an entrepreneurial dream. Kids were a little bit older, having more financial stability. And we just both looked at each other and we're like, if not now, when?
Exactly. Exactly. There's no perfect time.
Yes.
There may be bad times, but you would know that.
Right.
And now remind me how you and Nicole knew each other. Did you work together?
We both worked together at the company that
where you left.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the one that I'd worked at before, the one that really pioneered how do you productize consulting.
Okay. Yeah. Did you both sort of have the same idea, or did you have the idea and you went to Nicole and said, I need your help?
We had a couple of ideas, actually. And that was one of the things that gave us more confidence to take the leap, was that we had a few ideas, and in our spare time, we were testing the ideas out. So we were talking to people in our network, we were researching the market, we were putting together kind of draft business plans, and we felt like we were getting good market validation on this particular idea that we ended up pursuing. And that gave us the confidence to go ahead and take the leap and quit our jobs.
That is huge. I quit a big job, but it was to stay home with children. But that was a massive career shift. And I remember just how scary that was and how I grieved leaving that big corporate job. It was an amazing job. And you grieve that because you have friends and you have your network, but you just took that all with you.
Yes. And I think, I mean, looking back, right, like hindsight's 2020, I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, like, it's going to be fine. Yeah. And also the worst case, especially at that point in my career, was that if it didn't work out, I would just go get another job.
Right.
One of the things, now that I'm thinking about this, that I think really helped was, so I practice yoga and I was going through yoga teacher training at the time.
Nice.
And one of the things that we were really working on in yoga teacher training is how to help people overcome fear in their yoga practice. So like, let's say doing a handstand or something like that can seem very scary for a lot of people. But if you know the right form and you've got support and things like that, there's very little risk to trying to do a handstand. And I started to see all of these parallels in my life and my professional pursuit and thinking like, where am I letting fear hold me back when I actually shouldn't be afraid because the support is there? If I just structure myself the right way, can really mitigate the risk. And that gave me, I think, the courage as well.
Wow. I love that connection. I don't know that we've ever really talked about that before, but I love yoga. And that is a great way to think about taking your yoga practice right into your life and anything that we do, which is really pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But so help us understand exactly what productization is. And then you've just released a new book. This is your third?
Correct. Yeah.
And this new one is commercialization. So what's the difference between productizing and commercializing?
Yeah, great question. So when we talk about productization, we're really talking about how do you take, again, a service, something that's maybe delivered one-to-one through people, and deliver it one-to-many, ideally using technology. For example, just kind of standardizing, let's say you're a marketing agency. You just kind of standardize the different types of engagements that you do. You package them up. They have different price points. That would be a form of productizing services.
Okay.
Or you could go to the extreme and create a software product that helps with automating marketing metrics reporting. And that would be another type of product. You could write a book. You could create a course, like all sorts of things. Those are all ways to like scale delivery of services. So that's productization. Commercializing is when you take something that's already been created, whether it's a service or a product, and you bring it to market. So when we talk about commercializing, we're not talking so much about the product development phase, but we're talking about the marketing and the selling. Things like, how do you select the best target market? Who are you going to sell to? How are you going to price it and package it? What sales channel or sales channels are you going to use? How are you going to market it to generate leads? And then if it's a renewable product, like subscription-based product, how are you going to ensure that it renews, that people actually get value and keep paying that subscription fee month after month or year after year? Right. So it's kind of that whole, what we call go-to-market phase of productization. It's like a subset.
Okay. I love that. I might have to get that book soon. With all the ideas I still have in my head. Things I'd like to do.
Yeah. And it's interesting because a year and a half ago, we were just hearing more and more in the market with the companies that we work with. Their CEOs and leaders are saying, we created this great product. There's market demand, works really well. We're having a hard time selling it, or we're just not getting enough leads.
Sure.
And they didn't have the capabilities to sell and market a product. Mm-hmm. They were used to marketing and selling a service.
Right.
And so that's why I did the research and wrote this new book.
And would the commercialization book, would that be good for anyone that has an e-commerce business already?
Potentially. I mean, this particular book, like all of our books, is geared toward B2B professional services.
Okay.
So all the case studies are stories of professional services firms, again, like law firms, accounting firms, consulting firms, and how they successfully did this.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So it's really kind of geared toward that audience, but the lessons are definitely applicable across different industries.
Right. Your books really are talking to the business person that's trying to scale their business with other businesses, the B2B.
Correct.
Let's talk a little bit about this, the risk and the fear and everything that you had going on. Was there ever a time after you started Vecteris that you went, oh, what have I done? Other than every day.
Entrepreneurship is a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. There's certainly times when things don't go the way you think they're going to go, and then times when things go better than you think they're going to go. And I think one of the things that's helped sustain Nicole and I throughout our journey of being entrepreneurs is continuing to focus on our why. Why did we start the business? What was it that was important to us? What are our core values? And just keep coming back to that, whether it's boom times or bust times.
Yeah.
And now 7 years in, we've definitely seen it. It's interesting because the other thing is, think about COVID, okay?
Right.
So COVID, the first 6 weeks after lockdown started, things were pretty quiet for us. And then all of a sudden, all of these B2B services companies who'd been delivering in person through people realized that they needed to digitize delivery of what they were doing.
Right.
And top just blew off our business. I mean, we had more work than we knew what to do with. And so it was something that we thought was going to be negative ended up turning out really positive. And I think that was a good lesson for us going forward. If something doesn't go our way, then we kind of step back and we think, okay, well, how can we make this a positive? Mm-hmm. Like, where's the reframe here? And that also helps.
I love reframing.
Yes. Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, you need to reframe often.
Yes. Yes.
All the time. COVID is a great example because in that first 6 weeks, we all thought it was kind of temporary.
Right.
And we all thought, okay, everything's going to be a little bit of a mess for a few weeks. It'll get all figured out. And then we'll all just kind of go back to normal.
Yeah.
Well, we still really haven't gone back to normal. There's no such, it's post-COVID, pre-COVID. People define their lives basically by COVID right now, before or after. And so during that time, you had the opportunity, like you said, to take what could have been just a disaster or the end or whatever and figure out how to make that happen and then how to not fail in that time by having too much business that you had to turn away. Sometimes that can be a problem for entrepreneurs as you get too busy and you can't handle it. But you were in a good position to be able to say, you'll have to wait for us.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I also know, knowing you, that team building and having the right team and the right people is critical. And I'd love to talk a little bit about that. And I'd also like to talk a little bit about how you built the right advisory board for your business, because I know many entrepreneurs don't see that as important, or they think I'm not far enough along yet to engage people in an advisory board. And you did it early on.
Yes, you're right. We really did, at a time when we probably really couldn't afford it. But we felt like it was important to the growth of the business. And I'm so glad that we did it probably a little early. the thing that I think was so critical and has been so critical, both for the advisory board and team building, is our values. So getting really clear on what are our core company values, and then hiring based on those values, but also looking for advisors who not only had the professional experience that we wanted, either they were former clients or current clients, or they had built a business similar to ours and had a successful exit, or they were just really familiar with the ins and outs of building an entrepreneurial business. All of those criteria are important, but what really mattered to Nicole and I was finding advisors who cared enough about us as people to be totally honest with us.
Right.
Because again, it's an advisory board. It's not a governance board.
Right. Big difference.
Yes. So, I mean, we are paying them to advise us and not to rubber stamp our ideas. So I never want our meetings with them to feel like dog and pony shows where we're just kind of impressing them, but where we're really sharing all of the challenges, all the things that keep us up at night, all the second guessing, and getting their very candid feedback. And I knew that would be hard to do unless we had advisors that I trusted had our best interests as people in mind. And we've been so fortunate with the ones that we've found, and they've been amazing for the growth of our business.
And how many people are on your advisory board?
4.
Nice.
Yeah. So 2 customers, former customers, 1 person who built a similar business from nothing and had a successful exit, and then another person who's really familiar with the entrepreneurial environment and building businesses.
And you've quickly, because really 7 years for an entrepreneur is not that long.
No, it's not.
You've really gone from hands-on, hands dirty, in the thick of it, to really getting to the point where you can work on it, above it, not so much in it day to day.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Because that is unusual for 7 years in, I think.
It is. So it was partially always planned. So when Nicole and I founded the business, what's our why? What's our purpose? What are our core values? What's our 10-year vision for the business? We didn't name the business Armstrong and Merrill because we wanted the business to last longer than us and be sustained beyond us and grow beyond us.
Nice.
And so part of that meant at some point, I should no longer be CEO, and that we should start to recruit in a professional management team. So we had that as part of the plan. We ended up pulling the trigger on that a little early because of a personal situation that I had where I had an extended family member who was very ill, and I had to step in and help take care of her children. And it was just very kind of up in the air, like what my schedule was going to look like. So we were fortunate in that we were exceeding our financial goals. We had already started to hire in more professional managers to run the business. And so we just accelerated that plan a little early. But Nancy, I tell you, it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because it was handing over my baby to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but I had to work with a coach for about 1.5 years to learn how to step back and not get involved in things that I shouldn't get involved in.
Well, good for you. I mean, I thought that's great. I'm all about coaching and asking for the help that you need when you need it. And I think some of the things I'm hearing, these savvy secrets that you have, but I want to hear what you think your savvy secrets are. But a couple of them are, A, you're very well educated. We didn't talk about the fact that you went to Harvard Business School. They're very well educated. We're not talking to somebody that just showed up, but you are good at that strategic planning, the thinking ahead. I think you've always been good about separating yourself from the entrepreneurial journey, which I think is pretty impressive and hard to do. But some of the other things that I've seen you do too is just you stick to the plan. When the plan doesn't go as planned, you know how to pivot. You aren't afraid to pivot. And that asking for help when you need it, your advisory board, your coach, your friends, your coworkers. So many of us as entrepreneurs, we think that we have to do it all on our own. And that's such a bad attitude.
Totally.
So I love that you've always said, this is bigger than me. I'm the one driving it with Nicole, but it doesn't have to be my way all the time. It doesn't even have to go as planned all the time, but we need that plan to come back to as we're walking down this path.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think those are some of your savvy secrets. But what do you think your savvy secret has been along the way?
I think those are absolutely on target. I think another one that came up in this conversation was kind of the mind-body connection. Mm-hmm. My yoga practice, I think, is very important to just my mental health, my exercise. I mean, I work out usually 6, if not 7 days a week.
Oh, can you just can I follow you around?
But I say
in my head, I work out 6 out of 7 days.
It's my medicine. And yesterday I had to have a challenging conversation in the afternoon. And then I immediately went to the gym and I just felt so much better after that.
That's awesome.
So I think knowing whatever it is for people, what is your release and how do you, I think, and especially entrepreneurship can be lonely. How do you blow off steam in a productive way? Right. I think that's been really key for me.
Because the other thing about you is you're so level. I'm sure that you have the emotional ups and downs, but I can't imagine you having a bad day, even though I know you do. But
we need to get Nicole in here because I was calling her and saying things I can't say on this podcast on my way to the gym. Then I had my workout. Then I reached out to another friend, mentor of mine. And we had a Zoom call this morning so I could further unpack what had happened yesterday. And so I think you're right. Ability to reach out to other people is also key in kind of keeping me level because I do have that outlet of people I can go to and again, be completely transparent with. And so I am really struggling. I don't know what to do, or I can't believe this just happened. Has this ever happened to you? And
overwhelmed.
Yes, exactly.
Right. Well, I do think it's kind of like going to confession. It sounds so much worse in your head than it does when you say it out loud. When you say something out loud and you've been stewing over it and it's just driving you nuts. And then you say it to somebody else, you're like, wait a minute. Why was I so worked up about that? That does not sound as bad. Or as you're saying it out loud, the solution comes with it, even if the person's just being a sounding board.
Exactly.
So I love that.
Yeah.
This is the That's So Savvy recipe for business success. So Eisha, what's in your oven? What's coming up?
I love that question. Yeah. So with the launch of Commercialize, which just came out in October, we are now expanding the services that we provide as a company.
Nice.
Traditionally, we've worked with CEOs, COOs, chief product officers, really on that kind of what's your productization strategy? What are your ideas? How do we determine which ideas are worth pursuing and developing and which ones aren't? Now, with this new work of research that we've done, we want to expand and work with chief marketing officers, chief growth officers, heads of sales, again, at B2B services companies. So that's a big expansion for us, and it almost doubles the size of our buying universe.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So where can our listeners get these books?
Oh, they're wherever books are sold. Yes, yeah. Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble. Yeah.
I was so excited. Eisha and I got together not too long ago to catch up for lunch. And the next day, she popped up on my Audible. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yes, so we've got an audiobook. Yeah, that was great.
So it is out there. Now, do you do book tours or things, or how are you marketing your?
Yeah. So no, again, because it's a very niche audience. Mm-hmm. So we market a couple of ways. One is we have a very large newsletter list at this point. We market on LinkedIn, and then we market on Amazon. So you can kind of market based on other books that people buy or keywords that they put in. So that's how we market.
That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit more on the personal side. I'm always fascinated at your travels. She's always on the top of some mountain somewhere, whatever, with her hiking and running and climbing and all the things she does. Yoga comes in handy. But let's ask our fun end of the episode question. When you go to sleep tonight, tomorrow morning, you're going to wake up somewhere in the world. Where would that be and why?
Rossland, British Columbia.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So it's about 2 hours north of Spokane.
Okay.
10 miles over the U.S.-Canadian border.
Because it's not cold enough here in Cincinnati?
They have gotten 150 centimeters, so 50 inches of snow already. And it's just the beginning of December. there's a ski resort there called Red Mountain, and it's the 9th largest ski resort in North America, but nobody has ever heard of it. It's got amazing tree skiing, cat skiing. It's got beginner terrain, intermediate terrain. I mean, it is just, and it's just this perfect little village. We are building a house there. It won't be ready for 2 more years. And I just keep
you wake up with that house finished, right?
Yeah, I just keep looking at all the snow falling and just wishing that I was there right now and enjoying it. Yeah.
So this is a place you've visited as a family and have decided that that's where you're going to have your
it's
spot?
like a ski chalet that we're building. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, keep that yoga up because we don't want any skiing injuries.
I know.
Well, Eisha, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to share with our That's So Savvy listeners?
For any aspiring entrepreneurs, what I said earlier, there's really hardly any downside. And the downside that you can probably imagine is easy to be mitigated, especially if you have good professional reputation, a halfway decent business plan. And I just wish I could go back in time and just tell myself, like, it's going to be fine.
Right.
Do not worry about this.
Right. Exactly. I love that. And even when things don't go as planned and you have to take left turns and right turns and different turns and stop and start, those still in my mind are not failures. I think the failure is when you try to keep pushing something that isn't working.
Exactly.
Because you had it in your head that this is what you wanted.
Yeah.
So I think that idea of just do it, try it, know what you can risk in time and money.
Yeah.
And know where to get the support and guidance that you need, what you're great at. And then just go to yoga.
Go to yoga. Try a handstand.
Yeah, there you go. You're going to have to help me work on that handstand. Well, Eisha, thank you so much. It's always wonderful to see you. And I love that you've been on both of my podcasts now because she was my first guest on her $1 Million Mystery, which is still out there. So if you want to listen back to that from where she was, that was 5 or 6 years ago, probably, to where she is today, you can see that trajectory and that she just keeps going. It's wonderful to just see all of your success and what's ahead. And I'm going to come visit you in that ski village when you get that house built.
Oh, please do. Yes, I can't wait to host people.
Well, thanks for being with us today. And we will be back soon with another episode of That's So Savvy.